Surf Ninjas for the Game Gear by, Sega themselves, in association with NewFX circa 1993, based on the old New Line action comedy with Ernie Reyes Jr. and Sr., alongside the late Leslie Nielsen and the pre-Judge Dredd Rob Schneider. New season, new year. What more could one expect, right? Before we jump in, I'm dedicating this long-awaited season premiere to Boston Open Screen, 16-Bit Heroes, Weird Local Productions, Triple E Productions, Night Even Comedy, Catalyst Comedy, The Horror Squad Podcast, Bitbar Salem, High Energy Vintage, Hot Commercial Filmmaking, Rod Weber of 2020 The Dumpster Fire fame, and his always alluring and radiant, yet unbelievably resilient wife, Lauren Pespisa, The Letterman Family, Orsini Media, Nick Paul and Josh from Continue, Pat Brennan and Dan Bulick from Console Wars, Stutter and Craig from Side Scrollers, Rhetorical Thrill, Mike Tendo care of Dongle, Rosalie Mayu Comedy, and as a more than certain many hell if few may remember as Carla Parquette from The Lawnmower Man way back. And finally, Jarvaland, Rob Attillo, and Bob White. With these out of the way, if you've seen the film, the premise should at least be second nature, and God help me if I meet, let alone come across, someone who hasn't. It revolves around two young LA surfers, Johnny and Adam McQuinn, portrayed by the aforementioned Ernie Reyes Jr., aka Pizza Boy Kino, the insert performer for Donnie, the Triad Zing, Prince Tarn, Ty, etc., and Nicholas Cohen, respectively, both of whom eventually find out that they are crown princes of Patusan, a coastal Asian kingdom, which is Thailand in reality, and the live-action Mortal Kombat film from '95, another New Line project I might add, was also shot there, but I digress. Over time, they reluctantly follow their destinies with the help of their mystical uncle Zach, portrayed by Ernie Reyes Sr., Jr.'s real-life dad no less, Iggy, portrayed by the infamous, often criticized, pre-SNL-induced Bigelow Rob Schneider, and Lieutenant Spence, portrayed by Tone Loc, aka Slam in The Adventures of Fort Fairlane, the voice of Pee-wee and Bebe's Kids, Goanna and Fern Gully The Last Rainforest, James Paul in Poetic Justice, Emilio and Ace Ventura Pet Detective, Juice and Blank Check, and the voice of Tekken Titan AE, amongst many, the latter of whom isn't featured within the game, to dethrone the dark and devious Colonel Chi, portrayed by the late great Leslie Nielsen, aka Frank Drebin from Police Squad in the Naked Gun trilogy, Captain Harrison in the Poseidon Adventure, Mr. Hammond in Prom Night, Dr. Rumack in Airplane, Father Jebediah in May I and Repossessed, Santa in the infamous All I Want for Christmas, Dracula in Dracula Dead and Loving It, Mr. Magoo, Ryan Harrison in Wrongfully Accused, Marshall Dix in 2001 A Space Travesty, and President Harrison Scary Movie 3 and 4, amongst many. May God rest him. Rescue their captive stepdad, Mac, portrayed by the also late John Carlin, from Dark Shadows and Cagney and Lacey, and rule alongside his Patusani refugee-turned-betrothed, Romay, portrayed by Kelly Hu, from the also infamous Friday the 13th 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, The Doors, Sunset Beach, Nash Bridges, The Scorpion King, X2 X-Men United, Vampire Diaries, and Arrow. Not to get all California, bro, or any shit like that, but hanging 10 and riding infinite waves into the gameplay aspect, we've got ourselves a standard, run-of-the-mill action platformer in the vein of Irem's Kung Fu, Karate Kid by the also defunct LJN, and a pre-Persona Atlas, and even X-Men, Shakan the Forever Man, and Shinobi, three other Sega heavy hitters. In which you're assuming the overall control of Johnny as he battles his way through numerous locales before reaching and confronting Colonel Chi in Patusan, 6 to be precise, 7 including a bonus area which I'll reveal later, starting at the Imperial Palace restaurant, followed by the Venice docks, the island of Patusan itself, its ragtag jungles, and lastly, Colonel Chi's prison camp and fortress, with the extreme ladder involving the final confrontation against that corrupt as fuck, copper and gold half-masked son of a bitch bastard warlord. Control-wise, the D-pad forces Johnny to migrate and duck at will, in tandem with making attack combinations with button 1, and toggle any and all applicable selections. Start accesses the status and item menu, which of course will be further particularized ASAP, and buttons 1 and 2 are for attacking and jumping individually, with the latter being used for performing a double jump upon tapping twice in quick succession for the record. Other physical techniques include a ground roll, performed by pushing left or right while crouching. Comic Zone anyone? The two signals at the top left are composed of an indication meter for Johnny's double jump technique, depending on how often it's used, complete with a health meter underneath, both of which are color-based. Blue meaning either Johnny's double jump ability and or stamina are at full, apricot, or as the manual refers to, white, meaning the double jump and or stamina meters are at the halfway point, and red meaning both attributes are dangerously low. In both cases, you're better off allowing Johnny to take a breather until the double jump indicator is back to full, blue that is. And regarding the latter, should Johnny take way too much damage, especially during combat, it's his ass, and also, inevitably, yours! About the status and inventory screen, once again, accessed upon pausing, you're free to summon Zatch at will, especially during boss battles, as long as there's enough in the inventory, 2 of which you start off with, but you can also rack up more along the way, in the form of his twirling pyramids. Read hints via Adam's fortune-telling psychic game gear, 4 of which you start off with, and yet again, more of which can be racked up along the way. Gain access to extra treasures, including not only extra summoning items involving Zatch's strong attacks and Adam's extra hints, worth 20 and 3 gold pieces respectively, slowing down the bonus clock, worth 35 gold, an extra heart to recharge Johnny, worth 20 gold, a replica figure awarding Johnny an extra life, 3 of which you start off with, worth 25 gold, and again can be obtained along the way, except depicting only Johnny's face, extra sub-weapons, worth 10 gold, and an extra continue, 1 of which you start off with tragically, in case you lose all your lives, worth 50 gold. You can also access the different sub-weapons Johnny can summon at will by pushing down and 2 simultaneously, fire incantations, shurikens, death stars, and katana blades, as long as you're sensible enough in conserving them for even the most strenuous skirmishes. Likewise for Adam's hints, Zatch's quote-unquote assistance attacks, plus a special weapon which not only will I reveal ASAP, but are mandatory for the final confrontation against Colonel Chi himself, and in true Zelda fashion, your chances of absolute supremacy are for fucking dick, if you happen to skip over the secret area where it's found, and are thereby forced to proceed without it. As expected, throughout these 6 earlier announced areas, you'll be pretty much making every last one of Colonel Chi's relentless as shit ninja clan and henchmen your forever bitches before they do vice versa. Likewise for the occasional territorial animals, rats, falcons, snakes, tigers, what goddamn have you. And don't expect any mercy whatsoever from the following bosses either. Captain Ming and Manchu, portrayed in the film by Philip Tan for Batman 89 and Showdown in Little Tokyo, and the also late Nathan Jung respectively, both of whom will materialize out of fucking nowhere on more occasions than one would ever fathom, not just in the first 2 areas that is. Even before reaching Colonel Chi, your chances for total victory and Pachusani freedom will all go down the proverbial shitter unless your mind, body, spirit, and skill are not only intermingled as one, but at full readiness against those ruthless-ass, dick-squashing piles of solidified coyote fecal matter, basted and mixed with goat piss and the asswood of a diseased crocodile. The most common-ass gripe about the controls, which for everyone, is a major motherfucking drag, or so I more than gather, but totally not for yours truly, is how half-assed they are in terms of the double jump ability and damage registration system, especially when going toe-to-toe with each goddamn adversary along the way, and opening up lifetime supplies of whoop-ass and prepare to get fucked up on them without even so much as a shred of guilt, not to mention the gap-clearing efforts for which the aforementioned double jump technique is crucial. Apart from the corrupted, yet somewhat middling control framework, the gameplay procedure's nothing short of second nature to allow to sink in eventually. No fucking cap. Concerning the challenge aspect, while indeed Surf Ninjas doesn't take long to acclimatize oneself with, in terms of every basic and advanced strategy outlined so far, I would not, at the very least, expect any leisurely, nonchalant as fuck moments, or, God forbid, a sauna-style back rub, lap dance, striptease, or a fucking jerk-off hand job from what we're witnessing here and now. As mentioned before, regarding the damage registration system, most of Colonel Chi's multicolored ninja maggot dicks will end up landing multiple blows on your ass, and vice versa, with the latter involving Johnny having to find every possible opening to do the same, ditto for the 4 sub-weapons. The same shit also applies when confronting 2 of Chi's aforementioned high-ranking henchmen, Captain Ming and Manchu, throughout the remaining 4 areas, and even timing your double jump to clear even the widest gaps before Johnny gets exposed to environmental hazards, whose chances are way more likely than firing off a point-blank dart in the center of the board and winning every Frito-Lay prize in existence combined. Getting back to the special weapon I alluded to earlier, when you're in the Pachusani jungle, after some much-needed crouch stand kick techniques atop the wardstone at the end, you have to face off against the decoy of Zatch within the Cave of the Ancients in order to obtain the Quan Tzu Blade, and proceed onward to the final 2 areas, which, and I hope everyone takes full appraisal of the fact that this is my final motherfucking reiteration, is mandatory for the last fight against Colonel Chi, and without which I consider myself royally fucked if I were you.
Women's all game!
Other than everything else, refer to the lives and continue stipulation I also discussed earlier, since I'm in no position to echo it all from start to finish, and can yet again be obtained along the way, or purchased on a whim as long as Johnny has enough gold. Also, don't expect any passwords or save features here, because neither of the latter two are available or were implemented during development prior to release. Fuck no! I mean, Christ! Talk about major buzzkill central, am I right? Graphically, for a mid-lifespan handheld title based on a somewhat memorable, albeit criticized, action comedy film, which for the record, was released not too long after this adaptation, I might add, the presentation aspects are an immediate triumph from start to finish, directly from its source material. Notwithstanding the handheld's limitations, each and every stage is meticulously rendered straight out of the film. Ditto for every participating character, be it in sprite form or through the cutscenes between stages. In the latter case, Colonel G's initially imposing and eventually extremely pissed off expressions as the game progresses, and his victorious chuckle when Johnny fails, plus Zatch's speeches and Adam's hints via the trusty in-game game gear. Not to mention Johnny's more prominent appearances halfway through the game. Truth be told, I'm in full agreement here with Sega 16's Doug Jackson in terms of the game's emulated high quality, hence my tried and true visual demonstration strategy for nearly the last decade, I might add, as opposed to an actual Game Gear, where most of the in-game action can be tough to connect the dots on, except for the in-between cutscenes. The sub-weapons and magic exploited by Johnny, despite appearing to be rather minuscule, are out of this fucking universe. In terms of music and sound, orchestrated by Brian Schmidt and John Sigismund at Set Incorporated, while many find that the majority of the songs are abrasive, second to third rate, and lack any form of higher qualities and or attributes that many find in handheld soundtracks, I'm going on an extreme-ass, irreversible-ass record, without any reasonable exception whatsoever, stating the motherfucking antithesis here. Each and every theme heard throughout, despite not sounding anything like its source material, looking at you, Baba Ram, based on Barbara Ann, is at the very least distinct, decent, and fetching, especially the opening title theme, reused in Area 3, Patusan Island, and the aforementioned cutscenes showcased in between all the areas. Not to mention the themes for Areas 1, the also earlier recounted Imperial Palace restaurant, later reused in the Cave of the Ancients within the Patusani jungle, Area 2, aka the Venice Docks, later reused in the sixth and final area, Colonel Chi's Fortress, and even Areas 4 and 5, the jungle and Colonel Chi's prison camp respectively. Apart from Adam's hints and the boss confrontation themes being rather middling, the appropriately placed sound effects are far from aggravating, as they're meant to convey every basic in-game activity, whether at the status menu or on the field against all odds. Replay value-wise, given the scope of what we've been witnessing so far, and how often it's been ignored and shat upon time and time again due to every goddamn common grievance many have experienced, call me insane or the quote-unquote self-proclaimed king of all jackass dipshits if you have to, but I more than recommend giving Surf Ninjas a fighting high tide of a chance, and then some. In spite of being along the same vein of the aforementioned ass-kicking side-scrollers, save for a few new secrets and surprises, apart from being based on yet another film, and a rather polarized kids film at that I might add, holy bejesus does it come close. And while we're at it, at least it's not as corrupt as HAL 9000 and the Incom Master Computer Program from 2001: A Space Odyssey and Tron combined. But once again, I humbly digress. Before I forget, there's even an abysmal-ass Amiga CD32 adaptation by the also-defunct Flare Software, aka Casual Arts, in association with Microvalue, which is way more of a goddamn disgrace to its source material than meets the eye. I mean, seriously, I'd rather play E.T. and Ghostbusters 5,693,271,999 times over, back to back! Therefore, what's my final verdict? Yet again, consider me off my goddamn rocker if you have to, but in the endless sea of handheld obscurities of decades past into which I've been diving time and time again, there's always either that unexpected, lucky, rare as a blue moon fish yet to be caught and coveted for all time, or an everyday, tedious-ass, shit-all anchovy or sardine. While many consider this particular title to fit within the latter margin, and under typical circumstances, I just may be in unwavering agreement here. I am, however, officially calling bullshit and shattering these common criticisms like an immaculately stacked pile of used brandy glasses at a wedding event. Either way, the usual stream of metaphors aside, if you've enjoyed, or to a much more vast scope, detested the film, there should be no excuse whatsoever to seek out and hang tin with surf ninjas on Game Gear, or just ignore it and move on, your choice. Until then, a belated New Year and Groundhog Day to all. This is the one and only hardcore retro god triumphantly signing off.